option है एक ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਸੰਦ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦਾ ਰਾਤੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਨਾਮ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨ ਕੁਝ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਇੱਕ ਉਹ ਮੈਂ ਚਾਂਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਇੱਕ ਇਸ ਕੋਲ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਤੇ ਜੇ ਪੰਜ ਵਿਕਾਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਭੈਣੇ ਹਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਥੋੜ੍ਹਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਵਿਸਥਾਰ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਾਂ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਕਰ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਪੰਜ ਵਿਕਾਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਆਪਾਂ ਉੱਦਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਸਮਝਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਪਰ ਆਪਣੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਉਹ ਸੂਖਸ਼ਮ ਰੂਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ they come in a form that you can't really see properly and being able to identify how those panch vikar are coming it's really important to stop them. What I'll probably do is I'll start with the panch vikar. Alright, so Maya and the Panch Vikar. If you have a question, just write it down and then you can toss it here and then we'll get to them at the end. We can discuss them at the end.
Will you be doing the speech tomorrow? Or
no speeches. No more speeches left. So, what is Maya? About Gurbani, it's Maya and the end. Does anyone know what Maya is? Sure, everyone knows what Maya is. Materialism, exactly. Some people see Maya as just being money, but Maya is essentially everything around us. Maya is the illusion around us that fools us into thinking that this is real, and it doesn't allow us to see the real essence of everything, which is Vaheguru. Even scientists, they will tell you that atoms are mostly empty space, and they can't figure out really how all this appears to be solid. It's mostly empty space. But this is the illusion that Vaheguru has created around us. So it's not necessarily money. So what are the Panch Vikar? Everyone knows them. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar. You can say that they're all a part of Maya. They all come to us. They're all a part of our existence. They're nothing that you can destroy because they exist within us. So ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਢਾਹ ਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਵਾਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਢਾਹ ਕੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਬੈਠ ਸਕਦੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ but you can never destroy them. That someone says I've destroyed all these Panch Vikar in my life. There's stories of very high avastha Gursikhs, very high avastha Gursikhs who either got complacent or ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਰਮ ਹੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਏ ਸੀਗੇ that even though they'd had darshan of Vaheguru, they still fell very fast because they fell under the influence of these Panch Vikar and they didn't even see where it had come from. And we can talk about some of those stories as we move forward. The Panch Vikar, they're necessary as a part of our existence. We need to use them as tools. Like fire is very destructive. ਜੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਘਰ ਤਾਂ ਸੜ ਕੇ ਸੁਆਹ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਬੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੜ ਕੇ ਸੁਆਹ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ but without fire you can't have a house. You can't heat your roti, you can't do any of these things. So Vikar are kind of like that. They have an impulse that drive us towards doing something that's important. But harek cheez vichon na, I think these Vikar, if we didn't have them, we'd be very lazy people. We wouldn't do anything. You need a reward, an instant reward. And that's why sometimes bhakti is very hard, because we don't see the instant reward. So these Vikar give you an instant reward, a satisfaction. And if you start getting addicted to that satisfaction from that Vikar, that's where the problem really lies. And all of these, some people say Hankar and Home are the same thing, but there's another school of thought that says Home is like the big circle, and these 5 Vikar, including Hankar, are within Home, that make you think that you are a distinct entity, that you are existing separate from Vaheguru. Whereas the truth of the reality is that Vaheguru andar hai, assi ek hai Vaheguru de naam, but assi usko pehchan nahi sakte. So these 5 Vikar create that delusion. So the first one is Kam. Guru Arjan Dev Ji ne ਸਹਿਜ ਕਰਕੇ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੰਜੇ ਵਿਕਾਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀ ਕਥਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ. So I'm going to be basing this discussion on Guru Arjan Dev Ji's katha of these Panch Vikar. So the first is Kam. And Guru Arjan Dev Ji ਕਹਿੰਦੇ हे कामं नरक विश्रामं बहु जोनि प्रमावण. We addressing Kam as the Kam is an entity. Guru Sahib says, hey Kam, because of you, Loki fall into hell, Nark. And both Joni Pramavane, that they go through different incarnations. ਇਹ ਜੋ ਜਨਮ ਮਰਨ ਦਾ ਗੇੜ ਹੈਗਾ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਕਾਮ ਤੂੰ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਹੈ. ਚਿਤ ਹਰਣੰ ਤ੍ਰੈ ਲੋਕ ਗਮਯ. Chit harana, that your will, it steals. Harana means to steal. Trailok gamya, that you wander all the three worlds. Jap tap sheel vidarana. Jap tap means all your good qualities, your meditation. Sheel means your calmness, your patience. Vidarana, it khatam kar denda hai kaam. Alp sukh. Alp means thoda ja. That's a little bit of sukh that comes from it. Avit chanchal, uch needs samavana. That it makes someone chanchal. Chanchal means the focus that one has. It causes someone to lose that focus and go in the different directions. Uch needs samavana. It's not as though it affects the rich or the poor. It affects everybody. And then Guru Sahib finishes, Rav Paham Bimunjit Sad Sangam. It says, your fear, the fear people have of you, is lost in the satsang. Ot Nanak Narayan. So, if you take the ot of Vaheguru, if you go in the satsang, then apne aap naam bacha sakte. Otherwise, isko bach nahi sakte. And then one other talk that I want to talk about before we have a vichar amongst ourselves about what kaam is and how it affects our lives. Guru Sahib कहते हैं निमक काम स्वाद कार कोट दिरस दुख पावे. For that one instant of taste of kaam, lust, that you have to undergo hundreds and thousands of days of pain. And kari mahot rang maana, for that one instant you can enjoy, and then kinda hai fir bahut pachtawa. Then you have to forever regret having done what you did. So kaam is all around us. Used to be that kabhi India कहते हैं जैसे कभी इतना बहुत औखा है, people are now walking around without clothes. But even now in India it has this rape problem. There's a lot of students ਇੱਥੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ. ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਆ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਛੇੜ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਫੜਾ ਦਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ. ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੁਝ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਆਮ ਹੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਉਹ ਸਮਝਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ. But what are the different influences of Kaam? One is obviously our natural instinct as we go into adolescence. We have that pull towards the opposite gender. And in some cases, of course, when we talk about homosexuality, someone may feel a pull towards the same gender. So it's that already, but what are the forces that increase it? What are the factors in our culture and around us that increase Kaam? And we're the oldest group here, so I can talk freely with all of you.
Media?
Media. Okay. What else?
Computer sites.
Computer sites. That's actually one of the biggest ways of interaction.
Lack of sex education.
Lack of sex education. So all of these are actually, you're the oldest and that's why I'm getting the best ideas from you. One, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਾਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਬਾਕੀ ਵਿਕਾਰਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਲਿਖੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਨੇ. And we can talk about them in Sangat. But Kaam is the one that we can't talk about in Sangat because there's some people, the younger people there and the older people don't want to hear it. And even amongst our own families, our mothers and fathers don't sometimes give us the education about it because they're embarrassed to talk about it. But the fact is, Kaam ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ, Pargat Roop ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, it's around us because all of us, as a fact, are the products of Kaam. If Kaam didn't exist, none of us would exist. So if someone says, Main ta Kaam to bilkul mukht hain, the fact that we exist and look around us, our parents and all of us as children, we all know what it is. And so it's important to talk about it. Before, very few people had the jurt to go and openly engage in these sort of activities. But with the internet, you can become a faceless person and then do these sort of things. Even if it's not interaction, you have these galt sites, you have pornography that first you have to go to the store and buy the book, and then you might be afraid who's going to see me buying it. Now, sitting alone on a computer, oh, even done me there. So why does calm happen? Can anyone think of ways that we can avoid calm in our life? How can we avoid calm? And this is for both married and unmarried. Naam Simran is the biggest one. Naam Simran is the biggest one.
Sangat.
Sangat.
And the first thing, the gratitude is very easily in our life. If even urge lust come and you have your partner, Guru Sahib gave us, good. So banda baar nahi bhajda duje ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਮਿੰਟ ਲਈ ਫਿਰ ਪਛਤਾਉਂਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ.
That's right. Because if you look at calm, calm is not just one of the vikars, it Bajat Kurat bhi aa jandi hai. Bajat Kurat means there's 4 things that a Gursikh can never do in their life, and if they do them, then they're fallen from the Padvi of Sikhi, they become a Patit. Those are Kes Katane, eating of meat, anda, use of intoxicants, and fourth, having sexual relations outside of marriage, outside of the Iman. So, Naam Simran, Sad Sangat, these are all very important. I have 3 suggestions. And these are suggestions that Gursikhs have given to me. I used to have an older Gursikh I used to look up to. And he had a series of suggestions for us before we were married. First is look. ਉਹ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਚ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਇੱਕ ਤੋਕੀ ਹੈ ਰੰਨਾ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਬਹੁਤੀਆਂ ਪੁਰਸ਼ ਹੋਏ ਸਯਾਦ. Sayyad means hunter. ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਨਾ, if they become like hunters, they're looking for shikar, they're looking for prey. So in our culture, looking twice at a woman or checking someone out, whether it's Indian culture or Western culture, it's not seen as that big a deal, that you can check people out. It's like, it's kind of almost funny. But this Singh Sahib used to say, if you look at anybody, you know if you are having that impulse that you're checking them out, and then don't look a second time. And in fact, he used to be so strict, he used to say, if you look at someone a second time, then you should tell another Singh or another Gursikh that I made this mistake. Obviously not it should be someone you trust. This is what he used to suggest. I'm not saying you should do it or don't do it. But he used to say that, you shouldn't have done this, and you should tell another Gursikh or Das Karne thode vaste. So don't look a second time. If there's a problem that you're having with Kaam, then once again, I would suggest you go to the Panch Pyare, but we can talk about that after. So first is look. Keep your eyes pure. The second is touch. I get this question from the youngsters. In Sad Sangat, why do we sit separately? Why do we sit on opposite sides? The fact is, even if there's completely innocent intentions, if I'm sitting just like this, if there's nothing in my mind, who's to say the person I'm sitting beside of the opposite gender is feeling comfortable or something happens to their mind? So unnecessary touch. And there's all kinds of examples of how we can avoid touch. So try and avoid that close contact. And the third, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point because I was really uncomfortable when the request was made that we should sit together because of that reason was that I think we should have had. I know the reason is we want to have Sangat and we want to have us. And because I asked, I said, well, why do you want? What was the reasoning behind us all sitting together? They said, well, the reason was because I wanted to break up the cliques. That's why the request was made that we all sit. So I'm glad you made that because I was a little bit uncomfortable with that because of that reason, right?
It's not about us. Yeah. Our mind can be completely pure.
Yeah.
But who's to say that the other person won't have something happen to them?
Yeah.
So we can't, otherwise we're just as guilty if something happens to the other person.
Yeah.
So to avoid that situation, if we avoid close contact, that's what Agosik suggested to us. And thirdly, unnecessary interaction. ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਹਾਂ ਨਾ ਸੰਗਤ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ to have a discussion in this forum is fine. There's nothing wrong with Singhs and Singhniya having a discussion amongst themselves in the context of Sad Sangat. But I've seen so many relationships where a boy and a girl say that we are having talks about Gurmat, that oh mere veer ji ne, he's my brother, or this is mere bhain ji ne, why would you think of such a thing? I've seen a lot of situations where a veer ji bhain ji situation has turned into completely something else because of that close interaction. Because when you have wax and you have fire, even if it's far away, eventually something will start to happen. It will start to melt. Obviously, if you bring the fire very close to the wax, it'll melt right away. But even if it's far away, eventually that heat will build to a level where something will happen, that wax will start to melt. So why get into that situation? And calm is that sort of a thing. When you see someone who's in love, so-called in love, often in love in calm, they can't think of anything else. So that passion, that love we should have for Vaheguru, we can't have that relationship with Vaheguru when you're in love with a person in that same way. When you have that, in Grist Marg, it's different. You have that long-term relationship. You're not concerned about, you're not a hunter, you're not trying to trap the other person. But when you're concerned with manu fasana kidda hai, main hun kehda hun paitara hota ke bhai eh mere hi ho jave ya mera hi ho jave, then that is taking you completely away from the true purpose of Gursikhi, of what you should be doing. So close contact, whether that's by chatting on the internet, whether that's by meeting in person, I would suggest you avoid it. Baki thodi marzi hai. But calm, even after marriage, it's very important. Veerji yesterday, kende se ki bhai, amongst our community, Muslims have a lot of children. And I'm not saying we should have lots of children or a few children. But to avoid calm, even within the confines of marriage, is very important. Now I'm going to say something that might offend some of you, but you're old enough to either take it at face value and accept it or to reject it. But Gursikhs that I have known, senior Gursikhs, I have mentioned Bhai Mandir Singh, and then Bhai Jagtar Singh was the saying, I used to do Sangal here. We used to suggest even within marriage, uses of things like birth control should be avoided. That if you want to engage in calm or grist, it shouldn't be calm. If you're engaging with your spouse, it shouldn't be calm, it should be grist. You should be willing to accept that the result of this, that we will allow Vaheguru, if he wants to give us a child, that we will accept it. Otherwise, calm hi ho janda hai. You're not accepting it, that this is the reason that Vaheguru wanted us to do this. Baki, like I said, I don't want to get into a debate about it, but and the fact that there's so few Gursikhs, the numbers are decreasing. I know there's a lot of people that say, well, quality over quantity, but I would suggest that one of the big faults within our community is that we've gone into the cycle of trying to control the number of children we have, and we've gotten more into even abortions. I will say this in any group, that abortion is completely viwajit in Gursikhi. If someone, there can be exceptions if there's medical reasons or something like that, but that even I won't make exceptional. But if someone is having an abortion, it's because they don't want a number of children or they want a boy instead of a girl. वो तो बिल्कुल गलत गल्ला है. Only maafi panch pyare nahi de sakde. Panch pyare can't forgive you for that. No human being can forgive you for this. Only that's between you and God, and if God forgives you, that's fine. But no one can forgive you on this earth. And one last thing, Kaam is a budget Quran. And if someone does any of the 4 budget Qurats, they can maybe be forgiven and given Amrit again. But that will never be the same again. It will always have a knot in it. And for that reason, that person can't do Seva in the Panch Pyare ever again. So it's a very serious thing. Anyone have anything to add? You can disagree with me, it's just one person. That you have to agree with everything I say.
I wanted to mention something. I was helping Gurminder Kaur lecture together last night, and we decided to add the part about how to find a partner. And we said, okay, well, within your Sangat or through families, through Gursikhs, etc. And then it came to the topic of finding one yourself, and how that works. Now that is a very, um, um, it's not an easy thing to talk about, but for some people it's necessary because maybe they're a quiet person, they don't talk to their critics very much, or they're just, they attend Sangat, but they don't, they don't socialize with their Sangat as much. So how are they going to find someone? And, or, there's all these different ways, but maybe they're friends with other youth within the Sangat. And then you become friends with the opposite, members of the opposite sex, and you end up with a partner there somehow or the other. This happened for quite a few people that I know. And so, for example, you said that's not, we shouldn't be talking on the internet. But for some people, it's not easy otherwise. And if you find someone within your Sangat or someone that has similar Sikhi viewpoint, I don't know. I think and nowadays this matchmaking, it becomes a complicated issue for a lot of different people. And how are you going to end up finding that person? It doesn't always have to be one way or another. It can be a lot of different ways.
So I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people looking for partners are confused. Maybe they don't have that Sangat. But it's a very big risk to take when you go and find someone like that, because I'll tell you how I got married. I reached the age of 27, I finished school, and I went and told the Singhs at the Gurdwara that it's time for me to get married. They said, yes, we know it's time for you to get married. And they came back with several options, and they said, this is what this person likes. And they said, discuss with your family, discuss with whoever else you want to. And then, not only that, then they said, discuss with the people that are in that person's Sangha. And discuss with people that know that person and can speak mutually. I got married without ever having actually spoken to my wife before marriage. It seems odd, most people are like, you're educated, how did you get into such a blind situation? Because I trusted the Sangat on her side and I trusted the Sangat on my side. If you don't have a Sangat, then I would suggest you get a Sangat. But if you're going to go down the path of, I'm going to talk with someone, maybe they're friends, even in that situation, if you have mutual friends, maybe you can ask your mutual friends to get involved, get your parents to get involved. But doing it yourself is just very, very dangerous, and I've seen it go wrong too many times for me to say that this is a good path to go down. Baki, like I said, I can't tell you what to do. It's your own choice. You weigh the risks of everything you do. But I would suggest it's very, very risky. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
Just a quick question. How did you verify that? Like, you mean, did you have five people from the Sangha that you were part of, and then 5 people there?
So actually,
just the process.
There's actually someone from her parent. So I was in Canada, she was in India. Someone from her parent suggested it. And then the Sangat on my side called up others that were in that same area, in that same Sangat. And they asked
Was it the same village or the same?
Same village, and then she had a circle of Sangat. And they called that members of that Sangat who would have no interest in saying something good or bad about it. And then when it all seemed to work out, we got married.
And I want to add something with somebody very close to. I didn't share that much in that morning time. I shared because girl got married to somebody guy, and we asked everybody. They said, yeah, very good thing. And they said, I was just a patient, yeah, everything, right? And after that, everything happened. And after that, when she went their home, they don't even participate. That's okay, but the Americani, but their elder brother eating meat, everything's coming in the home. So then they got a huge fight because she's just really beauty, obviously he can't like it. So she tried to get in to see the show and all that. He said, I can't get out of my home. I'm sorry to say that. So either reason for key is so some people say you have to pala jano bande then vya kar lo. So some now it is a trust issue bande sangat. But at this sangat ne dasya we call like people call people like that he gam they said yeah very good. After that only people can they ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਵੀ understand.
That's the problem, right? ਕਿ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਲੈਣੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਭਾਈ ਇੰਨਾ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਉਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਹਮ ਹੀ ਭਰਤੀ. That's the big problem. Any situation when you get married, it can go wrong. ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਕਰਮਾਂ ਦਾ ਖੇਡ ਹੈ. But you have to find the best process to get married. And I feel that asking the Sangat to do the rishta is the best process. Otherwise, like I said, you're all independent. You can find the best processes for yourselves. ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਠੀਕ ਲੱਗਦਾ.
Like any in sociology, like in social theory, we can't have one theory. Like there are so many theories which can correlate. So we can't have a one set thing.
ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਵੀ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਦੱਸ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਵੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਕੋਈ we got married like master ji told us we didn't really know the same ਹੈਗਾ but they didn't say ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਹੀ ਕਰ ਲਓ ਜਾਂ they said ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਲਓ ਦੋਵੇਂ ਜਾਣੇ ਆਪਣਾ so even we didn't see anything like even man personally ਕਦੀ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ like in the way so ਜਿੱਦਣ ਮੇਰਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਕਾਰਜ ਸੀਗਾ engagement ਸੀਗੀ ਉਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਜੋੜੀ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਆਏ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਦੋਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ we just ਹਾਂਜੀ ਠੀਕ ਹੈਗਾ ਤੇ ਦੇਖਿਆ but for me ਅਸੀਂ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕੀਤੇ ਕਿ I was honest ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੇ uni ਗਿਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਕੀਤਾ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਰਿਹਾ this is my family and she told her head that so I think ਇੱਦਾਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਕਿ
ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਮਾੜਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਵੀ like I didn't speak with her at all, but ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਵੀ often ਅਕਸਰ ਹੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵੀ the boy and the girl have to have discussion amongst themselves to be what do you want from marriage, what do you want from marriage. ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਗਲਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ but the dating scenario ਕਿ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਡੇਟ ਕਰ ਲਓ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਲਓ ਵੀ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਠੀਕ.
no
That's the wrong scenario. ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ with the ਸੰਗਤ ਦੀ ਆਗਿਆ ਨਾਲ the knowledge of the ਸੰਗਤ ਉਹ ਕੋਈ ਗਲਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ. Because you have to be clear exactly what you want from each other.
Because they were either America to see Indian क्योंकि आजकल ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ problem ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ Americans are thinking something as Indian so ਪਹਿਲੀ ਮਾਸਟਰ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਿਲਣਾ so but ਇਦਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮਿਲੇ ਜਾਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਇਦਾਂ this
So we can continue on this one, but ਅਗਲਾ ਆਇਆ ਕ੍ਰੋਧ calm and
Just one quick question in regards to that. When we're working, right, one thing I really found is like I took a year and a half off from work. I didn't work for a year and a half, so I just did something. I did small jobs, anything like that. And when you go back to work and you see how people are dressing right now, like how ladies are dressing, it is not really good. Like their standard for dressing has really decreased. So how do you even avoid that? Because sometimes people are walking, they're not wearing the proper clothing, they're wearing skirts, and you're just going to work. And what my question is, because that affects your kamai too, and you're here in Sangat, we've had a good environment, but you know when I'm going to go to the office on Tuesday, people are going to be dressed inappropriately. So how do you make sure that your kamai is not affected? What would you do?
So we just told like we didn't look we just looked somebody first time ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਗਿਆ ਸਾਡੀ impulses something we were looking at them right ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਤਾਂ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਦੂਜੀ ਵਾਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ impulses ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ you have to control yourself ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਹੁਣ ਸਾਨੂੰ checking the impulses ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ so that's need you have to control like ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੰਗਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਹੈ so ਬਾਹਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਤੇ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਆਪ ਕਰਨਾ ਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਸੰਗਤ ਨੂੰ so if you're looking 2 or 3 times checking them like something kind of that's do you around, not them. Their culture is like that.
There's two different things. Sare vikar, they're interlinked. Koi independent nahi hunda. So on one side you have someone that wants to be noticed, that wants to get attention, that wants to show their body so that they, oh look at that. So maybe they start wearing a certain type of dress or they start wearing less and less clothes. And the way they get attention is by enticing kaam. So and once again, that's like being a hunter. You're looking for your prey. So is there any easy way to do it? You close your eyes, I guess, for the entire day, but that's not practical. So just having that I can't look a second time.
Is it to do Mol month or is it to do Simran right away, like why do, or do Mol month? Or no, meaning that you just, to avoid, what's the best way to avoid that's one thing. Because people are going to be inappropriately dressed in your workplace. You cannot do anything. And how do you...
I can only give you examples from what I've seen. and you don't have to agree with them or do them yourself. So I'm not saying do this or don't do this. I can just tell you what other Gursikhs have done. This older Gursikh used to say कि भी ये किसी ਨੂੰ कदे problem आ जावे ना, that call another Gursikh up, just have a conversation. That just have like, you know, you have a cell phone, just take a, if you're feeling that you're vulnerable to a vikar, just call that Singh up and just have a conversation with them on something else. You don't have to tell them I'm feeling vulnerable to a vikar, but just having that sangat right away will help you. Reading Barney, of course, will always help you, but having that accountability that, hey, there's a real person watching it. Je aapa Vaheguru nu haazir na je samjhde hain, we would never have any of these problems. But sometimes we forget that Vaheguru dekh raha. So a second best option is I'm in the company of a Gursikh. So krodh, Guru Arjan Dev Ji ਕਹਿੰਦੇ हे काल मूल क्रोध कदंच करना ना ਉਪਰਜਤੇ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਕਲੇਸ਼ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ conflict, you are the root of all conflict. Anger, you are the root of all conflict. Karana na kadanch karana na uparjate, that you don't let mercy ever come. Vikhyant jivan vasyan krot nityam krot jatha markate, that you make someone very lowly. You throw someone from the level of human into the level of animal. And Guru Sahib uses the example of a monkey, that you make people into monkeys. Jada bandar tapada hai na, Guru Sahib kehta hai, you make people jump around like a monkey. Anak sasan tardant jam dutta tab sange adamam nare. कि भाई जेडे जमदूत ने जेडा क्रोध दे बस हुंदा है, the Jamdut will give chirkan, will give chastisement to someone who is a krodhi. Deen dukh panjan dayal prab nanak sarv ji rakhya krodh. And once again, every shabd at the end, Guru Sahib just as a beinti कि भी protect me from these. There's a link between काम and krodh. Because Guru Sahib काम krodh का है को गाड़ा जो कंचन सुहागा डालना है. Because both come out of passion. Both come out of heat inside the body. So, like Guru Sahib says, loss of control makes you like a monkey. And one instant of calm or krodh actually can destroy your entire life. I go to prisons to talk to sick prisoners there, to give them gurke. And I've met three, at least two that I can think of, husbands that murdered their wives. And one of them, he to this day will not admit that he did it, even though all the evidence is there. And if you read his case, I got interested, so I read his case. He had a very loving relationship with his wife. He was a very good husband, is what everyone reports. And no one can understand how he could have killed his wife. And when they caught him, he was slitting his own wrists. He was sitting by on the beach, slitting his wrist because he regretted what he'd done. So this person who had a perfect life, children, good job, in one instant of krodh that he couldn't control, he destroyed it, and now he's serving life in prison.
Is this in Toronto?
Yes, in Toronto. So can we think of ways of controlling our krodh? Or how do we see krodh around us? How do we control it as well? Any suggestions?
I think the person who you're mad at, try to see the good qualities in them and see if they're more than the bad qualities that you're mad at.
That's right.
Sometimes I do is like, if I, my personal experience, if I like sometimes short temper or something, nothing going good and you feel so like crow like you have to speak like roughly abusive language, whatever you want to, but I try to sleep. Ki oh 10 minute da nap la lo, your mind is fresh. When you woke up, ਉਹ ਸਾਰੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕ੍ਰੋਧ ਦੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਬਾਹਰ ਖਤਮ ਹੋ ਗਈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਫਿਰ ਉਹੀ ਪਰਸਨ ਨੂੰ ਉਦੋਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸੀ। ਬਟ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਮੂਵਮੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੈਚ ਕਰ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕ੍ਰੋਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਗਏ, then you ਪਛਤਾਉਣਾ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਉਂ ਕਹਿਤਾ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਵਰਡਸ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਪਰ ਮੁੜ ਕੇ ਵਾਪਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ।
One of the things that I know I do is I try to think of my own faults, just to say, you know what, sure that person is not perfect, I get mad at them, but you know what, I have a lot of things that are my own faults, so you know, I shouldn't be getting mad.
That's true.
Remove yourself from the situation. If you know that there's a toxic environment there, you know that you're going to get angry, you know that the situation is not conducive for your happiness, just remove yourself away from the situation. Whether, let's say for example, if you're at work, you're having a disagreement with a coworker, just get outside of the office, remove yourself from the situation. That's one thing I've found.
Very good. Because Krodh has a very direct link with your body. You have to watch what your body's doing. When you're in Krodh, your blood pressure is rising. And if you look at your breathing is becoming very shallow. So in addition to all of these suggestions, I would suggest deep breaths. It seems very simple, but it actually works. Just look at your breathing, and if you know you're getting very upset, just have some deep breaths. You'll feel a little bit better. But think about the consequences. How many families are broken because of this sort of abuse, because of someone can't control their anger, beating their children, beating their spouse. And even on a lower level at schools, you see bullying happening. So Krodh will destroy you internally. It's not, the worst type of Krodh is the one that doesn't have expression actually. The one that you allow your Krodh to keep building and building and building. It can lead to depression, it can lead to high blood pressure, and eventually it can lead to an explosion where you do something very, very bad. So it's best to get it at its root level when you start noticing it, and try and find some way to get rid of it. Don't just store it within yourself. Anything to add? Anything to add? Alright, let's move on to Lobh. Hey Lobha Lampat Sang Sirmora, Anak Lahiri Kalozde. That even Sirmora means Shiromani, the highest. Even the highest people, in fact, particularly the highest people in our society, are affected by it. Why? I don't know if anyone has noticed this. The more you have, the more money you have coming into your households. I see, in my experience, the more you start to spend. The more someone has, the more they start to want. If they have a very nice kitchen, a very nice living room, dining room, you'll see those people are the ones that keep changing it and getting more and more and more. Whereas someone that has almost nothing in their house, where I've seen, they don't really care to get anything new. Not exclusively, but it's my own observation. That it drives a person to go in different directions, and no dolda hi rehda hai. They're always affected by lobh. Na ch mitran, na ch ishtan, na ch bandhav, na ch maa pita tab lajya. That you lose any sharm. You don't keep contacts of your friends, your ideals, your family, your mother, or even your father. And we see people doing taghiya in India, especially when it comes to Jameel and that sort of situation, with their very close family members. But otherwise, even here, you lose all shame. When it comes to wills, for example, someone dies, look at the kalesh that happens in a family to see who gets the residue of that estate.
Somebody once told me, they said, you should only leave your kids 2 rupees. You know why? They're not going to fight over 2 rupees.
Akarnan krodh. Akarnan means, jada karna hai. Akarnan means that which you shouldn't be doing. Krodh, it makes you do it. Akhadya, khadya, what jada khana nahi si chahiye, that you shouldn't have eaten, you eat that. Asajya, sajya, samajya. You do those actions which you shouldn't have been doing. And then trahe trahe sharm swami, bigyapat nanak khar nar hara. Dar ke Guru Sahib kehndे हैं कि हम तो वाहिगुरू जी तुसी मैनू बचाओ. Like I said, every last line is the ardas कि मैनू बचाओ इस तो. So, how do we see lobh in our lives? I mentioned that one example of the more you have, the more you want. Children arguing over the estates. But do we see other examples of lobh you want to mention?
So, a few years ago, let's say small stuff like even like wanting the newest cell phone, right? Like, I remember I wanted an iPhone 5 when it came out, so like I was gonna go stand in line to go get it. Like, I'm gonna go stand in line to go get it. It's like I hadn't slept properly, so like, and it was in San Francisco, it was like the nearest Apple store, so like half an hour from my house, so I could leave, get in a car accident like 2 feet from my house. Like literally just hit a parked car because the sun blinded me. And my car got totaled as a result of me wanting a $500 phone. So it's like right away, it was like great. I just lost like a brand new car that because I wanted to.
Low makes you even like jealous karna, because somebody has something is good in their home. We want to and it makes it jealous inside. But when you're jealous people, so sometimes in the home, like we said, we go somewhere else because they can ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੰਨੇ ਗਰੀਬ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਸੋ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਵੀ ਲੋਕ ਜਾਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕੋ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਲੈਣਾ ਸੋ ਤ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨਾ ਜਾਗ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਚੀਜ਼ ਲੈਣ ਦੀ
I feel actually really embarrassed sometimes because when I start looking at like how I'm perceiving other people when like somebody else has something good happen to them, right? And I'm like, why don't I have that, right? And I feel then I step back and I'm like, they're like and then I feel really bad when they're 6, right? I'm like, they're like they should be my brothers if I like really think that if I really believe Guru Gobind Singh Ji is my father, then like they should be like, then I should be really happy that my brother is doing really well or my sister is doing really well, right? But instead I have like this jealousy for some, you know, really stupid reason.
So the Shabd talked about how it. Go ahead.
I saw a study on Facebook that like Facebook makes you feel that way because people don't normally share things that aren't good about them. They share things that are happy and good things. So when you log into your Facebook, all you see is your lists of friends and everything that's cool that's happened to them. And if you haven't had anything particularly noteworthy happen to you in a while, you know, months and go by and you can see everything cool and I got a new car, I got married, or whatever, all these different things, and it can make you feel jealous.
So that's actually the most important point. Jealousy is the direct influence of lobh that we can see in many of our lives. That if our neighbor has something, we get upset. And either if we can get it, then we will try and get it or get something better, or we hope that that person, why did they get it? We feel bad that why did they get it.
Or discontentness, like if you're content, then jealousy. I think opposite of greed is content.
And it leads to crazy expenditures. Farmers in Punjab, they're in a bad situation for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons that you can't ignore is the fact that they're buying things that many of the times they don't need, and they're tractors or other things like this just for showing to others that we have these
Jeeps
things.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So they're buying things just to show that I have these and I can have them, even if they can't afford them, and they will regret it afterwards.
But that's another reason because all these private companies are marketing those things really well, plus easy line of credits and easy loans and all those, so that encourages everything. So it's a very complicated net. And if you're content enough, then you won't get trapped in that net, I would say.
Yeah, I heard one katha like how to get rid of soap sometimes. They say like the shabd Kood Raja, Kood Parja, Kood Saf Sansar, Kood Mandap, Kood Mani, Kood Vasanha. So like our mind slips one thing like everything. It thinks like everything is reality. When it thinks everything is reality, then it goes up low. Like basic understanding, I think it is, we should say it to our mind, like Kood Raja, Kood Parja, Kood Saf Sansar, Kood Mandap. So then there is no use of taking those things, like interest in those things which have no meaning. So I think we should do abhyas of these shabds whenever we are like in these types of conditions, I think.
I had the opportunity to work with a lawyer from a very big firm, and we were talking, and he said, nothing is ever good enough for me. I always want the best. I want absolutely the best of everything, and as a lawyer you could afford it. And the thought came to my mind, Sas Kate Lakh Ko Hatava, where you earn 100, and then you go and try and earn 100,000. If you can never find you'll never go after Maya and find happiness. Because lobh is like a fire. If you feed a fire, it's going to make the fire bigger, and you're going to need to keep feeding it. So the only way to get over this is get contentment, and the only contentment we can have is with Naam. Because if you find someone that has happiness, they don't want to get anything else, and that happiness can only come from Naam. And I can't say this over and over again with enough emphasis. Naam is magical. This is not just for me to say, experience it yourself. The gun that you get from japping Naam, it's an active experience. You will wonder how these things became a part of me. So it's not just saying it, try it, you'll see it. So moving on more. Hey Ajit Sur Sangraman Akbalana Bahumardana. This is the one that comes with age. As a youngster, you won't have as much, but as you grow older and older, especially the oldest of ages, it becomes unbeatable. And that's why Guru Sahib says, Hey Ajit Sur Sangrama, that you are the unbeatable warrior. Atbalana, most strong. Bahut mardana, you're bahut marde, you're very, very brave. Gan Gandhar Dev Manukhyang Pash Pankhi Vimohana, that you have gotten all of these, the angels, the devte, humans, animals, all of them are under your control. Har Karan Haran Namaskaran Sharan Nanak Jagdishwar, and once again the Ardas to be such a Pash Mein Thanu Namaskar Karta. More in our lives, I think, is most visible when it comes to our family situations. More is that it's actually a good thing that if a mother didn't have more for her child, she wouldn't be able to wake up in the middle of the night to clean it, wouldn't be able to wake up in the middle of the night to feed it, wouldn't be able to make sacrifices. More is important, otherwise we wouldn't do any of these things, I think. But when it becomes too strong, then we start thinking only about our family. We start thinking that our lives are just our family. And once again, this is especially for older age. Someone once said to me that how do we counter Moh? How do we get rid of Moh? And he said, I'm going to try breaking my attachment to my family. The solution isn't to break away from your family. The solution is to make everyone your family. That you have love for your child, that's Moh. But isn't it better if you have love for every child? Moh doesn't say don't care about your child. Getting over Moh doesn't mean that you stop caring about your family or your children. It means you see past them. It means expanding your true love, that you have that same care for everyone, for that entire universe. One example of Moh that I think is very alive is the Badal family. They've destroyed Punjab because of their Moh. Badal has nothing else in mind except that he wants to build he's so old, I don't think, he must know that he's going to die soon. But his entire quest is that my son should become the chief minister, and that we should be the richest, my family should be the richest, most established family, not just in Punjab, but in India, if not the world. And because of this, he doesn't care what is happening in terms of Punjab's economy. He doesn't care what's happening in terms of the Panth, what's happening in Gurdwara. He's just controlling all of these things for his own family's sake. Anything to add about Moh that we see in our lives? It's the hardest one to get over because it's not something you can ever stop doing. You always have to care for your family. But how can you increase that care beyond? And that's once again only possible to get by through now.
Isn't it the case for all the Bharas? There's like a second aspect to it?
I mentioned at the start that all of them have a positive, but when you get past its utility, then it becomes a negative. Anything else for Moh?
What about doing seva for others?
Doing seva for others.
So it's just your family as well, but doing seva for others charges you somehow.
One of the things that Fanji alluded to, but we see a lot in almost all the marital situations I've seen, are family problems because of in-laws. That when you have a husband and a wife, often the husband and wife, if left alone, wouldn't have any problems. But when you have the in-laws interfering and saying, "Koi na, jiwa da kehna tu wapas aa ja kar," that's Moh. That says that you're mine, and that person you're married to, that's not ours, that's someone else's. Or that you're concerned still about not how our larger family can be, blessed, how it can be successful. You're still concerned about, I've seen situations where someone's sending 50 or 60% of their income back to their own Niji family as opposed to keeping it for their family. So Moh has that form as well that we have to be careful about.
I think one thing is, one thing I notice is we as a society, in the community, there's no strong counseling services available. I know I'm from Calgary, I don't know about Vancouver, right? You need East Indian, you need good Sikh counselors who can use Gurbani and just somebody neutral. Because the thing is, if somebody's neutral, they don't have a hidden agenda. When it's parents or they're gonna have a hint, like you said, it's more, the attachment is to this. But when it's a neutral person, then at least they'll be able to understand both aspects and they'll give a good opinion. So how do we go about getting that type of service in regards to our community?
Yeah, services here inside.
Is there?
Yeah, they're giving grade 6 or Khalsa.
WSO put out an offer, my organization put out an offer, if someone requires family counseling, they can get in touch with a number. It's one of our press releases. And we have a network of Punjabi and also Gursikh psychologists and family counselors. So it's something we should see more of in other places. And finally, ahankar, which is most intrinsic to us. Hey janam maran moolam ahankar and papatma. Papatma means the soul of sin. And moolam once again means root. So the birth of our birth and death, our cycle of reincarnation is ahankar. Mitrang tajant shatrang dridant. It makes us leave our friends, it makes us adopt our enemies. Anik maya bistirana. And it causes maya to unfold around us. Avant javant takant jiya duk sukh bopogana. It makes us to come and go, and we have duks and sukhs, and this is our life, this is what we're stuck in. That it's a very serious and terrible disease that no one seems to have a cure for. But Guru Sahib then says, how is the cure? Vaidyan par brahm parameshwara arad nanak har har hari. That Guru Sahib, Vaheguru is, Naam is your solution, Naam is your doctor. Arad nanak har har hari means doing meditation of Vaheguru, Naam Simran is the solution. This is the most suksham, most hard to identify vikar. Sometimes you have it very openly, but sometimes it even comes into our bhakti. If you're following Gusikhi, sometimes you're wearing, if we do everything in Gusikhi as Guru Sahib da hukum hai, I'm a Sikh, I have to follow Guru Sahib's hukum. That there's no room for hankar here. But if you do anything in Gusikhi that, well, what are people going to think? People are going to think I'm so spiritual. That's ahankar. In Kirtan, once again, Bhai and the Singh I used to do sangat with, he was at a very high avastha, I believe. I mean, no one has a compass or some sort of a measure of avastha, but I believe he was very high, and you could see it sometimes. But he would never, ever try and differentiate himself from the sangat. He would in fact take steps to show that he's not of an avastha. He would try and hide it. So on purpose in sangat, he used to throw his head down and act as though he was sleeping. And one of the things that is still around today that I do sangat with, he said, once I felt bad that this is setting a bad example. Maybe I should wake him up. Because I put my hand on his knee, and the second I put my hand on his knee, he immediately grabbed my finger and squeezed it. That he was awake. That he just said, leave me alone. So, if we're sitting in sangat and we're wondering what are people thinking about us, even when doing Simran, Ma Karna, this is the rule. Not all of us when we're doing Simran are like this, obviously. But if we're thinking, the more I shake my head, the more rowdy I get, everyone's thinking, well, how much anand is this person getting? That's the wrong type of bhakti. That's actually opposite of what we should be doing. Gursikhs I've spoken to have said that the more you control yourself, the more ras you will get. Because if you're not controlling the small amount of ras you're getting, then the more you can't handle more, and Guru Sahib won't give you more. But the more you control it, the more you hide that experience, the better it will be for you.
I had experience of this kind of thing in India. Maybe we are kids and we think that if you shake head in the kirtan, that means you're enjoying the kirtan. Otherwise you're doing nothing. Saying always sit behind in the kirtan, we judge them wrong in the broadcast or somewhere. When sometime I got a chance to sit with them, I know I'm not going to take a name of somebody, but I was sitting with them and he was like sit like this, eyes open, but his naam was like more than us. He's like, when I was sitting with him, he was like proper looking who is doing it. And I look at him, he is noticing he's not doing anything, he's just sitting there looking at everybody. But he's doing actually, he's not showing, but he does the Simran so good at like, proper way. So we know people judge like same way we judge like who is shaking head or something. He's only enjoying it, otherwise not enjoying it. So maybe that's how it's like things.
Those people that are doing proper bhakti will always try and hide it, because if someone sees you have bhakti, people will try and come to get that from you. They'll try and get, the associated glory from that. So hiding it is how most Gusiks I've seen try and handle that situation. And they will avoid, like we talk about Sant Babbe. Sant Babbe enjoy having that. They will try and get the Sangat to bow to them. They will enjoy that. But Bhai Jagdar Singh, once again, I'll give an example from his life. A young Singh once brought his shoes to him and said, "Let me put your shoes on." He grabbed those shoes, he ran after him, trying to hit him. And he was running as fast as he could. And then afterwards, he goes, "There is Sangat Speshi Lerni." And he brought him to the Sangat and he said, "He's trying to make me a Baba. But why is he allowed to do this? He should be stopped." So, true Nimitta is not trying to be different. It's trying to be a part of the Sangat. And once you try and think that how can I show that I am different from this Sangat, that's, oh God. One last story about Chuti Nimitta. Nimitta, real Nimitta, it's different. A Singh was talking to me that he came from India, and there was a Singh here that used to bow in front of him like this. And once he said he saw me on the street, and he actually lay down on the sidewalk or the street and did dandals to me. And I thought, how much Nimitta does this Singh have? And he goes, so I asked him, can you drive a truck? Can you teach me how to drive a truck? He said, yeah, I'll show you. He goes, I got on the truck, and whenever, this was his pride and joy, he loved this truck, that driver. He goes, I started driving, and whenever there was something happening that he wasn't happy with, he would yell at me. And I was confused. But this same person that was lying down doing dandals, what is he doing now? And he goes, then I put the gear wrong. And he goes, this person had slapped me. And he gave me ganak, and he goes, at that moment I said, just let me off the truck. And he goes, that was the level of his Nimitta. So Nimitta is not a drama, it's not a show. Keep it real, is how I would say.
Nowadays it happens to you and that's how people, like if somebody's coming from somewhere else, like, so people show like so much respect, and after that backbiting so much here, like, to somebody else, like they say, he's not good, he's good, he's it. And if they come in front of you, like, why you're the best, you're this, like that. So even I say this is not good. If you're honest, unna karo jinna ka tanu acha lagda. Don't give person inna jada jado pichon sunda o jada dugna hurt ho jaye. So just say fateh and that's it. We jada na karo.
So be real. One other thing that I wanted to talk about is social media and Facebook. Selfies. We take a selfie and then we wait for how many likes we'll get, how many comments we'll get. And if we don't get enough likes, then we feel sad that why didn't anyone like my picture? This is a type of homa that we really have to be careful about. Exhibitionism that I see on social media, taking pictures of everything we do in our lives, it seems very strange to me anyways. But why would you want to share everything of your life, whether it's what you're eating, what you're drinking, where you've gone, recording on Facebook, locations of where you're at. It's all for attention. And we really don't need to be concerned about that. If there's a Gotsek, they'll be content within themselves that I really need to share my life with Guru Sahib, but for everyone else, I don't really see the purpose. Not to say Facebook and everything else is exclusively bad, but it seems to me to be a source of
nowadays
evil.
social media like creating so much problems. Sometimes, once I'm telling you a story, some people are showing it like I got fever, I have this. Like it's this example, but the person wrote a very like big thing on the Facebook. So maybe at the hospital. So something commented underneath. He said, if you have a problem, then face it. Don't Facebook. So rare from Allah. And I said, this is very good. Like, why are we showing? What do we need? Like, we showing our sorrows with Sokha Dukha. It's not going to Facebook. Facebook is not going to help us. Gurus are going to help us.
So that desire to be noticed, that's the biggest problem. Even, like why I hate being a lecturer is because, like honestly, I tell you, I don't want to do this anymore because it's too dangerous. I had actually decided to stop, but then Japnam Singh convinced me. It's because I know who I am. I know exactly where I'm standing. But what the world wants me to be or expects me to be is what then I will try and portray myself as. And that's a very dangerous thing to do because you know exactly where you are. Even when sitting in Kirtan, you know exactly where your avastha is. And if you have the desire to be, I want to show that I'm something I'm not, that's a disaster. It will throw you down very hard. So yeah, just try and be as real as possible. That's my only suggestion. So once again, we talked about the solution, which is Gurbani, which is Naam. And they will never be destroyed, but they can at least be controlled. And Guru Sahib says to be like a wrestler, throw them down, hold them, and don't let them get up. And you always have to be vigilant. You never know when they're going to come. So I don't think I have much time left actually, but if you have questions, you can toss them here. And if nothing else, I'll just put them in the question box.
One thing is, I'm confused that people used to say that calm and cold is the father and son. If you're growing calm and cold, then a calm is in way. If you're growing cold, then a calm is it true or something?
Like I said, they both have a link. Calm, krodh, kahe ko gal. Jadon calm di gal aandi hai, krodh di vich hi kai baar aa jandi hai. So what does it come from? It comes from the passion inside. जो अंदर गर्मी में जो कहते हैं ना, इंडिया की गल है, मेरी सिंगनी इंडिया तो so she always talks about एक गर्म चीज होती है खाने वास्ते. So you have this heat that's created within you, and that has different ways of coming out. Either it can be calm or it can be krodh. I believe this, you don't have to believe it. But I also believe that what you eat has an influence on these vikar. So people will tell you that eating a lot of mirch will cause these passions to come inside. I didn't believe it, but I do believe it has some influence. Not the complete influence, but it does have an influence. So this heat inside, this passion, that is the root of both. So that's why they're there.
What's the distinction between like home and ankar?
Home, there's two versions of this. One version is that home and ankar are the same thing, and the other version is that home is the I amness, and all five vikar fall under the circle of home. That ahankar is a part of home, but so are kam, krodh, lobh, and moh. So I will take maybe one question. Japna hasn't come to tell me anything yet. But, all right, I don't know who answered the question what, but let's go. Is abortion wrong in any given situation? Rape or financial issues? For me, both of those, I can't give you a definite answer. I can only tell you what I believe. I don't believe abortion is right in those situations. Because rape is the worst crime someone can commit. And once again, rape is one of those crimes that Panch Pyare can never forgive because you're taking someone else's haq. If you've taken someone else's right, then that person can forgive you and God can forgive you. But you can't say that Panch Pyare should forgive you for it. So rape is one of those other things that can never be forgiven by the Panch Pyare. But if rape happens, then you still have this jeev inside. That's if it happens that a fetus has taken birth because of it, then that fetus is innocent. That fetus had nothing to do with the rape. I think it's still a murder if you are eliminating that fetus. Will it complicate your life? Obviously. Do I appreciate how horrible this is? Obviously. But sometimes we have to accept Parna that what Guru Sahib has given me, I will work with that and I will follow the Rayat as I understand it as best as I can in that situation. So killing that jeev for me would not be acceptable, but I can appreciate others might have different opinions. Financial issues, this one is completely clear cut for me. And there could be that it brings its own karma with it. And I've seen many times that very poor families that have allowed a birth to take place become completely different in their financial situation after that birth. Obviously it doesn't happen in every situation, but I don't think a financial compulsion is enough to once again disallow a soul from coming into this world when that soul could have become a bug, that soul could have become who knows what. We shouldn't take that hak, that right away from that soul. That's my opinion. Now there's things like ectopic pregnancies. Ectopic pregnancies where it lodges in the fallopian tube. This is a personal choice. I can understand if someone, because that's not a viable pregnancy, right? Only in, I think, 1 or 2 cases of recorded medical history has it resulted in a viable pregnancy. But if someone, to save their own health, does something to change that situation, that's once again between God and them. I won't say it's right or wrong, but I can understand it. That's like a gray area for me. But once again, this is between you and God. Even the Panchayat can't tell you what to do. They can't forgive it.
Can I say one thing about what we were talking about? In my opinion, like abortion, just because of financial issues, is not an option. There's always, especially in Canada, there's always ways to get around it. When my son was born, I had no money. Still have no money. I don't even work, and I'm still able to pay my rent and everything like that. Like there's always ways around it. And I mean, if you just let the birth happen, financial issues, the money will come and it'll go. That's not an option for me. Definitely not. So.
I agree with that. Any other thoughts? Alright, next question. Will you take a selfie with me? Absolutely not.
No, he wrote it, then he put my name down.
What's the future self?
Will you take a selfie with me? I had one offer. See, as a WSO spokesperson, I'm in the media quite often and I don't mind. Like, when I put a video out, sometimes I even have to promote it on Facebook so that it gets more views. But it's a very fine line. I don't have a personal Facebook account. Like, I won't have one. But as a part of my job, I have to have a social media presence. So it's a fine line. If there's a reason for you to do a selfie, if it's for a greater cause, then why not? But if it's just because you want more likes and more comments, it's probably the wrong reason to do it. How do you handle the situation where a Gurdwara or Sangat committee don't follow that, for example, individuals have cut haircuts? Some of you might have experience with that sort of situation. How do you deal with it?
We didn't really deal with it, but all the planta is just like that. There's no
We have one Gurdwara in the Bay Area that has. We had 2 Gurdwara that have it mandatory that the committee has to be Amritali, and one of them is redoing the charter now. But basically, all you can do is fight for it. Like all you can do is try to. There are a lot of non-Amritali people who see the value of people being Amritali, right? And so you basically have to find common ground. I think the biggest problem is that we don't go to a lot of non-Amritali people's house and hear what they want from the Gurdwara, and as a result, they then see us as being out of touch with them. But if we do more of that and go and listen to them for half an hour about what they want, a lot of what they want is like really simple stuff, like reduce the mircha and the hunger, right? Like those are the reasons why they don't vote for you, right? Like or they want like more programs for seniors, like. And so, like, we found that, like, by doing those things, you make more traction.
I'll put this one in the question box. It's too long to answer that. But if someone wanted the question that I didn't answered directly by me, then you can come speak to me. But otherwise, I'll put it in the question box.
What was your viewpoint about that issue? The Gurdwara
There's 2 views of this. The older generation will say, you fight for your Gurdwara. And I kind of see the principle in that. But the younger generation that I'm a part of will say, if the Gurdwara is not working for you, then you go make your own Gurdwara, you go find your own Sangat. It's not worth the time and effort to fight for it. And maybe there's a point to that as well. Maybe the ideal is that you show everyone what a Amritali lifestyle is like, and maybe you can have an influence there. But on the other side, if things are so bad that maybe your own jeevan is being affected, then maybe it's best to find somewhere where you can do Sangat without those same concerns. It's sad that our institutions have been lost because of things like election systems. We've imported Western ideals like elections and committees when none of those existed in our tradition. And because of that, we've really lost a lot of the essence of how Gurdwara should be, which is sad. There's no easy solution. I can't really give you a solution off the top of my head. It's not certainly in 30 seconds like that. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.